Welcome to an overview of the Employee Superstar Coaching Series. Now, this is a very unique approach to developing superstar employees. Now, we use terms like high potentials and future leaders and emerging leaders. This is about coaching individual contributors. This is about setting them up to receive coaching, to receive feedback successfully. Hi, I'm Tim Hagen. I am the founder and creator of the Progress Coaching Training System. I've been teaching leaders for 26 years a methodology of how to coach their employees. And wherever I go, I get the same question. Do you have experience in our industry? And here's the amazing thing. From professional sports teams to music-driven companies, publicly traded manufacturing companies, publicly traded agricultural companies, small tech companies, large tech companies, every single client that I've had faces the same thing. They don't talk about job-specific challenges such as my graphic designers having problems with this software tool, or my salesperson is having problems with handling price objections, or my customer service agent is really not building enough trust and rapport. Typically, what we get are what we call foundational challenges, such as they've got a bad attitude, they don't take my feedback, they don't listen, they feel like they know everything, they're lacking motivation. Every company, every industry, this has always been shared. So I'm going to share with you a presentation of what you can do and why you need to build a foundational coaching program. And what does it mean to even have a foundational coaching program? That's exactly what we're going to cover. Now, before we get into it, let me share with you, after 26 years, I read this book, Insight by Tasha Eurich, a PhD industrial psychologist. Life-changing, because it hit me. It reaffirmed what I already knew, yet it also exposed what we weren't providing our clients. And one of the most amazing things is that in her study, she surveyed people who said that they are 95% of the time self-aware, meaning 95% of the people said they're self-aware. When she did her research, she found out in reality only 10 to 15% of people are even aware. That means 80 to 85% of people are fooling themselves. So let me share with you for 26 years our definition of coaching. Step one, it's getting someone to look in the mirror. Step two, it's getting them to take action on step one. Yet, very few people do step one on their own. I've been sharing that definition for 26 years. When I read this book, it solidified what we needed to do. We needed to help employees understand the value of coaching, the value of feedback, even when they disagree. Let me walk you through it. So first, let me share a quick story. We had worked at a large recreational boating company, and we did not have time for traditional training. We were just deploying coaching, one-on-one coaching, team coaching, and we didn't have time for really formal training because the call center, we were understaffed. They were actually going through a layoff. Numbers weren't great. And I remember I could see people struggling with feedback. And I'm talking even positive feedback. So I did something that was very interesting. I sat at a table like this. I sat right in the middle. And I had everybody go around the table and sit around me. And I asked every person one thing that they didn't like about me, or one thing that they felt I could do better, or maybe something that I do or I did that kind of bothered them. And what I did after every set of feedback, and people were nervous doing it, is I looked at them and I said, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And we got to about the 20th person. We went in groups of 20. And one person said, why did we do this? I said, I think you'll figure that out. And about a week or two later, we started to provide feedback. And we noticed people were accepting it. See, when we lead by example, when we share there's value in developing a positive relationship with feedback, people will follow suit. Our numbers went up. Sales, 22, 31, and 74% in 3 6-month increments. Our customer service rating went from the 75th percentile to the 93rd percentile. The customer's data, not ours. So why are employees lacking coachability? Why are they lacking this ability to receive feedback? There's a number of reasons. First, it's our educational system. Now, before anyone gets angry, I love teachers. I've coached volleyball for 30 years and I often integrate with teachers at school systems. Yet our school system teaches subject matter versus skills. They don't have classes in teamwork. They don't have classes in attitude or motivation. They don't have simulations where kids can practice receiving feedback. See, my life's changing moment, as theatrical as that sounds, and as I do this presentation, I'm 56 years old. So when I was 22 with a boss at IBM, she brought me into her office after about 3 to 4 months, and I got tired of getting called into the office. I felt down. I was angry. I would avoid her office. And finally, one day she said, I feel like you're avoiding me. And I told her, I said, look, I'm going to quit. I can't stand this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what anyone is talking about. Because I had never turned on a computer. I was with 4.0 electrical engineers. I was an adult education major. I literally had no clue. She smiled at me and she said, why do you think I call you into my office? And I said, I don't know, because you're upset, you're disappointed in me. She said, no, I care enough about you to take the time to tell you things that you do well and the things where you need to improve, where most people will not spend that time with you. At that moment, I went from 99% sure I was going to my old job, I was going back, to within about 10 seconds, there was no way I was ever going to quit on this person. Because what she did was brilliant. She changed my relationship with feedback and coaching in an instant. See, our school systems do a great job. Our teachers do a great job. It's the curriculum design that needs an upgrade. Schools need to teach kids, high school and college. Think about that for a second. And if you don't think it's bad, let me share this with you. Do you know now that we have some parents post-college go into workplace interviews with their kids to make sure their kids perform well? Can you imagine that? I've never heard something so crazy. Why is that? Because the child hasn't been taught how to overcome, how to be resilient. See, our parents bring us up and are typically doing what? Telling us yes or no. They don't ask us questions. They typically tell us you better study versus saying, what are you going to do to successfully prepare for that test? What are you going to do to successfully utilize the next week to prepare for your ACT test? See, what happens is we create habits and behaviors. Let me give you a big one. In youth experiences, I'm going to use youth sports for a second. Think about youth sports. The number one thing that kids hated about youth sports when their careers were over was the drive home with the parents. Why? Because the parents struggle to watch their kids struggle. So they say, you know, Johnny, you played really well, but... And then they unload 14 things that the kid has to do to practice. So then when they get in the workplace, they also are recipients of parents who did what? Go to teachers, fight for the higher grade. Go to teachers and say, my kid's not playing enough. Versus letting the kid have the experience to fight on their own. So now, why would I fight for myself? Why would I be resilient? Why would I learn to overcome? Someone else has been paving that path for me. So after high school and college, this is what the workplace often receives. Here's the good news. Nobody's really at fault, yet we can do something about it. The key areas, and we've identified 12. Here are the 4 that we're going to discuss. Creating a positive relationship with feedback. See, often when we get feedback, we go into agree, disagree mode. We don't go into what can I use mode. So when someone gives us feedback, what do? We often go into rebuttal mode in our mind. We're going to come up with reasons why that person's wrong versus saying, let me digest and reflect and really think about what I can take from this feedback successfully. Number 2, it is not a boss. It is not a department. It is not an organization's responsibility to motivate employees. The employees have a responsibility of being motivated. Now, with that being said, a coach can help uncover what the true motivation is. See, often what managers do is they try to motivate on their own beliefs and their own values, not knowing one fundamental thing, what truly motivates that person. The biggest mistake I always see, especially with sales teams, we try to motivate based on money. Not every salesperson is motivated by money, so we call it two ships passing in the dark. What we assume motivates becomes dangerous because we create a discord in the relationship. Number 3, attitude ownership versus transferring attitudes. See, by the time somebody gets into work, some people have had a full day. Getting kids on the bus, getting ready, struggling with bills, whatever the case might be. Most people have not been taught how to own their attitude. Why it is incumbent, it is a responsibility. It should be an expectation for everybody to come to work in a good mood. If people come in, and how often do we hear it? Oh, sorry, I'm just in a bad mood. I've got a lot on my mind. And they almost, people who say that, give themselves permission for kind of treating others not so well, not being a great teammate. See, true teamwork, the 4th item, is really about going above and beyond the call of duty and serving your teammates, helping your teammates, infusing action to support teammates even when not asked. Now, when you look at these 4 things, someone might argue, well, that's not really true at our organization. How often in your company do you see people at the water cooler talking, complaining? Now, it may not be at every company. Yet, if you go back to Tasha's work, 80 to 85% of people in your organization, if her study holds true, need to become more self-aware. The opportunities lie in creating a positive relationship with feedback, positive and constructive, developing an understanding of what really motivates them, and how to come into work with a positive, upbeat, energetic attitude each and every day in teamwork to become the best teammate where people walk away saying, wow, I hope I work with someone like that again someday. So again, the coaching relationship needs to be equalized. We need to prepare the recipients, not just the people who are doing the coaching, but the people who are the other side of coaching, the person being coached, the coachee. Let me share with you a really quick story. This is a young man who had a terrible attitude. And I won't go through the full gamut of strategy, but what we had him do, he was a salesperson, his numbers were low, and when we were coaching him, we realized that people didn't like to work with him either. And his termination was actually being recommended. So it was really interesting to work with this guy. Great guy. Yet he had an edge. So every week we asked him to do something unique. We had him do a random act of kindness for anybody in the company. He just had to do something nice. And the strategy was one of many strategies, was to pull people in. People started to change their relationship with him. They started to like him a little bit more. And about 60 days into the coaching, his boss calls me pretty upset. You know, he's serving pizza to everybody. And I said, yes. And he said, this has nothing to do with sales. I said, no, it doesn't. And he said, why are you doing this? I said, we have to coach the person, not just to the expectations of the job. I think if we do this, other people are going to be willing to help him. He'll enjoy where he works. He won't feel as isolated. Here's the cool thing. His sales that year went from 71 to 119%. Now, another great story is a young lady by the name of Mindy Curtis, terrified, had worked at a gas station, hired at one of our client sites for sales and customer service. And I remember she had to role play and practice, and the whole company would go to a coffee shop early in the morning and we would practice, and she would be red as a tomato. And the first time we practiced, she turned around and she put her face against the wall and she practiced because she couldn't make eye contact. She turned around and tears were rolling down her cheek. And I smiled at her and I said, "Man, that was awesome. I'm really proud of you." She said, "How did I do?" I said, "We have a long way to go, but I don't care." That was the most courageous thing I've ever seen. I had to change her relationship with that moment. She had never been in the rubber molded industry in her life. Took over a territory for a guy with 15 plus years experience and quadrupled her territory. Now here's a manager that we worked with that hated conflict. And Andy here on the right, taking a picture with Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers. Hated conflict. His bald head would turn red. He hated it. And one day, he had to have a tough conversation with an employee who had been the manager prior to him. She stormed out of the office. He called me that night upset. "Your techniques don't work." I started to laugh. He goes, "What's so funny?" I said, "They work. They just don't work right away all the time. Here's why: you're dealing with people." Her relationship is she's in control. I said, "You have to be on work in her desk before she gets there tomorrow and continue the conversation," which is exactly what he did. Here's the great part of the story. She became one of his most supportive advocates. 1 year later, she ended up leaving the organization, yet she had a party and he was invited. And here's the best part of the story. He is still a great leader to this day, but he was paralyzed. And I said, "Why are you so terrified of conflict?" And many people are. He said, "Nobody ever taught me." And last, one of my employees. This is Shannon. And I remember working with Shannon every time I asked her to make copies. Every single time I asked her to do something, she would just roll her eyes and give a big, like it was the end of the world. And we pay well. We pay our interns $20 an hour, and she was complaining. So on a Friday, I said to her, "Look, I will become your biggest advocate. I will become your biggest cheerleader. I'll be in your life the rest of your life if you want me to be, helping you out. What I will not do is be uncomfortable in my own company because you don't like what I'm giving you. There are things I do here I do not like. So come Monday, I want you to come in and tell me what's going to be different about you, about your attitude. Because you come in here and what you don't like, you just throw back at people. May not be your intent. I'm sharing with you as a teammate my perception. I hope you come back Monday. If I don't see you Monday, I'll just hire somebody else. You were not hired here because of your tremendous depth of skills. You were hired here to get an opportunity. I will either see you Monday or I won't." She's red as a tomato. So I come in Monday morning and she comes in my office, shuts the door, and she said, "I want to apologize." I said, "Awesome, we're done. Let's move forward." She became the only employee I could never say goodbye to. 3 years later, she was running our website. She was doing all this great inbound marketing stuff for us. And I'll never forget it. I'll never, ever forget it. Years later, she called me and she said, "Do you have time for lunch?" I said, "Sure." And she said, "I'm not getting enough feedback from my boss." She was 26 years old. And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Tim, you give me feedback every day. I feel like my learning is stagnant." Now, not everybody gets feedback every day. She now travels the world. She does some incredible work in community software development. She is a superstar at the company. She got the job with a friend of mine who hired her. 10, 15 years later, I was at her wedding. She's still doing great, and she always goes back to the lessons from the internship with me. So what we have to realize is people need help. They need to be taught how to receive feedback, how to develop a positive relationship, how to react positively and professionally, even when in disagreement. So what we've done is we've created a very elaborate program. Very elaborate. We have created 6 workshops that are delivered publicly, from how to collaborate, how to successfully become tenacious, how to become resilient, how to drive positive change, how to become a great problem solver, and coaching yourself to greatness. Now, every week, they will get a micro lesson of 2 to 3 minutes. They sign up, they get 48 lessons. So every month there's a theme, such as owning your attitude, becoming self-motivated, developing a positive relationship with feedback. And every month they get 4 lessons. At the end of those lessons, they will get an accountability assignment, 1 page that they turn into you or who you deem is appropriate. Now, if you choose, there are 3 different levels that you can choose from with us. The first level is just the content, the workshops, the lessons, and the assignments. Number 2, we have a level where they can receive quarterly one-on-one coaching sessions from a certified coach on our team, or they can receive monthly coaching sessions. Now, if you do a large number of people, we will also provide you 3 surveys from both the employee and the leadership, done at the start of the program, the 6-month mark, and the 12-month mark. And I promise you, you will see dramatic differences. Now, with that being said, if you have any questions, schedule a chat, schedule a meeting. I promise you, this approach is different from anything you've ever had. It builds upon itself. It's a combination of workshops, online learning, journaling, reflection, accountability. Those accountability assignments are revealing because you know what we're asking? Really good coaching questions. And then last, they can work one-on-one with a coach. See, if we position people to receive and develop positive relationships with feedback and coaching, the culture will improve from the foundational level.